It's February 1st, and on today's Kirkwood and Dunn, Jamie Jordan from Hoosier Huddle and IU Reactionary joins the show because Tim is out in Mexico vacationing. We dive into Jamie's reaction to the national championship as well as the 2026 recruiting class and look ahead to the 2027 recruiting class. Stick around as I have a hot take at the end that I want to know if you agree or disagree with. Make sure you follow us on all platforms at Kirkwood and Dunn. See a highlight video of January. What a special time that was for Indiana fans on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube at Kirkwood and Dunn. And for the show, it doesn't cost you anything. Please like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, comment. We love to react to what you're saying because it is important for us to build a community here at Kirkwood and Dunn. Let's get to today's episode.
Powered by Riverside.
While Tim is avoiding this single-digit weather that we are all experiencing in the upper Midwest, Jamie, I appreciate you coming off the bench to just score some points here for Indiana and the Kirkwood and Dunn podcast and joining me to host today's show.
No problem, man. Very happy to be here. Always love listening to you guys and just so excited at your growth. Like it's been literally amazing. So very happy to be on with you.
It's been a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know, this is Jamie Jordan. He is the writer known as IU Reactionary. He writes
not
for
as reactionary
Hoosier
as you
Huddle.
guys, though. I have to say that I'm not as reactionary as you guys. I try to be, but man, some of your guys' hot takes, and they all prove to be true, which is absolutely crazy.
Well, that is what's crazy. I've thought a lot about the media recaps that I need to like end a year. Like, you know, you're always thinking about, okay, what content am I going to create? The 2026 Kirkwood and Dunn recap is going to be one where we are going to have to clip all the times that Tim just crushed Ohio State, Alabama, me crushing Oregon, and just then play highlights from the game because we were catching every week, every game, every opponent. We caught a lot of heat, but finally we're back and we got to prove. And Signetti backed up everything that we said, which is what is the incredible part of the Indiana story.
Totally agree. I mean, it was just quickly going back through the season. I've never seen someone come in any coaching situation and just do what he did and then back up everything that he said he was going to do. And at every turn, like he said they were going to do this, they said they were going to do that, and they just got it done. Not only did they get it done, they dominated in almost every single facet of every game. And it's so fun to be a fan of that because I've been a fan of a team that was so feudal for so long where I knew, or I don't know if I thought this was possible, but like I thought that like being a normally good team was easily possible if IU wanted to do that. And I'm just so happy that they got it done. Obviously, we talked offline about that last drive, but I was like sick to my stomach and like shaking, walking in and out of the house, in and out of the room. You was trying to look at my phone to see if I was behind, and like, wait, what happened? My wife's like, why don't you just sit down? I'm like, no, you don't understand this. I cannot sit down. I've been standing for the last like 2 hours. So,
it was crazy. Yeah, let's catch up about this. Like, Jamie and I, we exchanged some DMs. I was looking back at our DMs. We exchanged some DMs the night of the championship at like 1 a.m. because we were obviously no one was sleeping during this time. But like, what has been just your I put out that video of the office scene where Jim finds out that Pam's pregnant and all because he just all of a sudden just like exasperates joy and just like it just shock on his face. I catch myself still doing that almost 11 days later.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you offline, like the only sports equivalent I've had to this is the Red Sox, and like in 2004, like, but it's different because the Red Sox were always like kind of good and they spent money and they were eventually going to get there, but it was like that just catharsis of like, like all this stuff in your fandom coming off of your shoulders. Um, and it was like a numbness. And I didn't go to bed until like 2 or 3 a.m. I had
Yeah.
no drinks of alcohol at all. I was completely sober. I had to work the next day. And it was just like, wow, man, this is unbelievable. So it's just, it's so, I'm so happy for everyone that poured their heart out into the team. Like, even like the support staff down to the people creating the media, like
Yeah.
everyone was on point all year. It was just
Yeah.
content that was great. Everything was awesome on the field, off the field. Obviously they lost Derek Owens, but he was a big part of that as well. I'm just, I couldn't be happy for the players, the staff, the people that are around the players. And then the university and the fans that like, who have been being like, hey, if you do put money into this stuff, good things can happen to your program. And so, just so excited. And as we're going to talk about, I'm absolutely jazzed up for next season because I think they're going to be just as good. I have a feeling. So
Okay, so I do have to ask you a couple things, just about your blog, and you can find IU
sure.
Reactionary at Hoosier Huddle. I'm a member.
Yes.
Go just sign up for Hoosier Huddle. Um, you end everything with the warrior poet Kurt Signetti, "Go
Yes,
IU, go
sir.
IU, go IU." But the real question is now for 2026, are you going to have to change that since he changed his own chant?
I know. I was thinking about that actually because it's the if you don't know if you've never seen the show Generation Kill, it's a show on HBO, which is one of my favorite mini series. Essentially, it's about the invasion by the First Marine Recon Division. It's an HBO show that a lot of good actors in it. Highly recommend it. But there's a scene where he talks about the great warrior poet Ice Cube, and so I started doing that like last year, and it just I was like they kept winning. And I was like, okay, well, the only losses that they had while I was doing this, so I'm just going to do it again this year. But I kind of have to do it again because Sig is doing a new thing. So I don't,
He is.
I gotta think that back up.
I think someone got to him. I think someone finally was
Right?
like, "Hey, this is actually." It's got to be. It's got to be his lovely family. Like, finally, like said something to him. Was like, "Hey, did you know like their chant actually isn't go IU?
I know.
It's
I know.
Hoosiers."
It's so
Like
funny.
that's I think someone got to it and it finally changed. And obviously we've been clipping that every single time. It's absolutely electric
Oh,
when he does
it's
it.
so funny.
Even though he has no cadence to it
None.
whatsoever. But it doesn't matter. It's my wife and I have actually talked about this because I guess there was some social media thing in her algorithm talking about the fists and blades, right? Like we were taught so long and all the orientations and all the things is like you go up
Yep.
and then
And
down,
they just started
right?
doing this.
IU.
Yes.
Now all the players do
Yeah.
this, kind of break it apart. And she's like, "Well, what do you think what do you think will go forward?" And I'm like, Whatever the players want." Like that, like
Yeah. Oh,
they
totally.
determine how it's gonna be. All those 8-year-olds, your son,
Yep.
watching IU for the next couple of years under the Signetti era, seeing players do this, he's gonna do
Yeah, of
this.
course.
Like they're
100%.
just gonna have to change the tradition of it's not high, it is
Yeah.
like there.
It's
And,
this.
and
No,
by the
I
way, if
totally
you're
agree.
listening on the podcast, listening, not watching
Yeah.
video,
He's doing it.
terrible podcasting. I'm showing the high fist and the blades. That's why you should subscribe to YouTube or Spotify video and watch us because you can see demonstration of the fists and blades. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think your adjustment. You're right. It's like your blog that statement's like Drew Evans in starting for the Indiana Hoosiers. You just don't lose with that. So I think you
Yeah.
keep it until inevitably we have our first loss.
That's what I'm
I
doing.
think the record's 42 games in a row, so probably like 2 or 3 more seasons now when we have our first loss.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's been a wild journey. And again, I can't, explain enough how much it meant to just me personally, like as a
Yeah.
person that has been following this for so long and there's been such dark periods. And like, I got back into it when Kevin Wilson kind of, came around and I was like, this guy's the guy. Like, this is the
Yeah.
guy. He's like the Broyles winner. And like, that was when I was like, okay, they finally actually hired a real coach. And I didn't think it was going to take 15 years basically, but I also didn't think they would win a national championship. So it's more sweet that it took this long and they won a national title rather than just going 8-4, 9-3 every year or whatever. That's where, like, to me, that's the difference between what I envisioned for the program and like where Signetti has put the bar with the no self-imposed limitations. Cause I impose limitations on myself, just not for just IU, but like in my personal life. And I try to like use that mantra of like, it sounds stupid, but it's like, it's a real thing. Like if you just think you can do something, you can do it.
Well, Signetti said something that I thought was like, when I reflect, and obviously hindsight's always 2020, but I remember having this discussion with people at the time. I think this was when I still worked for IU, so we didn't have a podcast, so I don't have any video recording, so I can just make up things that I thought at the time. But he said, like, there's no reason why Indiana isn't Ohio State. Like, we're the large state school, flagship in the state, like all this stuff. And I remember at the time going, he's not wrong. Like, I've always thought Indiana could do better in recruiting because of its southernmost status in the Big Ten. And like, it's like the opposite of what Kentucky football did. Like, Kentucky football did really well in Ohio and Michigan under Mark Stoops. And that's like how they built their stuff, because they were the northernmost piece. So they were convincing Big Ten kids to come down to Kentucky. It was like the reverse. Like, we could convince SEC kids to like come up and play for us. And so I thought it was, not that I thought we were ever going to win national championship, because as a respecter of college football, that just didn't happen. It doesn't happen. And so I never thought that, but I thought we could like recruit better, which is like a good segue into our conversation today. But like, I thought we could recruit better, and then inevitably like be a consistent 8-4 team every once in a year, 11-1.
That's literally exactly what I thought as well. I mean, it's just that was what I was, and that's what I was hoping for. That's when they hired Signetti. That was like, hey, I think this is just like I felt with Kevin Wilson, and Kevin Wilson was building something, and like whatever, we don't have to get into that, but like the recruiting started to get better. The recruiting got better under Allen, and one other thing I do want to bring up is that like a lot of the guys on this team, some of the best players on this team. Yes, there was a lot of James Madison guys. Yes, there was transfers. Mm-hmm. They're Tom Allen guys that stuck it out with the program, or left and came back in multiple cases. I mean, Lewis Moore is going to be drafted. Charlie Becker is one of the best wide receivers in the country all of a sudden. It just came out of absolute nowhere. And Carter Smith, arguably the best left tackle, and he's coming back. I mean, those are Tom Allen guys that stuck it out. And I'm just, they continue to like go up in the rankings, but they get these guys that are just super high character dudes that can also play football. And one of my favorite things that I got to get this in, because I was thinking about this the other day, is like when you watch, when I watch a ton of college football. And so when you watch like all these teams, IU guys, yes, they do like Pons does the, putting the sword away, or I think that's what it is, right? It's like putting the sword away. Yeah. But they never do that in someone's face. There's never overt trying to make the other guy. They never get to that level. But if you watch a lot of other Big Ten schools and a lot of SEC schools, their guys are standing over guys after a play. It's like that doesn't happen, because I don't know if it's just the guys they recruit, or that Signetti is like, you are not going back out on the field if you do these stupid things to hurt the team. And either way, it's so refreshing to watch guys develop, but also to develop in the way that like, it's like, you don't do that. You don't need to do that. You've been here before, go get it done. So that's also just a big deal to me, because Miami, there could have been a lot more penalties called on Miami. And I felt like there was a couple of them that were like taunting-esque penalties. When guys would get hit out on the sidelines, their team would just be all over it's like, you guys just don't do that. It's just like, there's not even a close, there's not even like a gray area of like, could this be a penalty? Could this not be a penalty? And so, it's the way that they're recruiting guys, goes into that, because the guys that they're recruiting, they might not be the highest stars. They don't want those guys right now. They want guys that are going to build the bricks of the program, and it's going to take some time, but that's how they're doing it. And you can see it by this, especially this 27 class, but also the 26 transfer class as well, and the 26 high school class.
Yeah, I will say, I think a great example of why this doesn't happen is Jamari Sharp picks off Carson Beck, clinches the national championship for Curt Signetti in the first 2 years. And he's a Miami kid, and he takes off his helmet to go celebrate or yell at the Miami fans.
Oh, I might. Yep.
And Signetti takes the time to go over. This man just won a national championship.
Yep.
Signetti takes the time to go over and chew his ass out for
one of my
taking
favorite
his
that was one
helmet
of my
off
favorite
of him.
things that happened in that game. I'm not
Yes.
even joking. Like, yes, they won the game, but he also, like, that was actually a big play. I mean, they had to, like, do
Yes.
QB sneaks forward to, like, not be in the end zone. I was furious that he did it at the time, but you see that video of Sig just, like, grabbing and being like, "What the
Yeah.
F are you doing, bro? Like, this game is
Yes.
not over." And it's just like that mentality. And I know Sharp has had, like, he's had multiple times this year where he's been up and down, and, like,
Mhm.
it felt to him like, I'm sure
Oregon
this
when
was just like,
Sig yelled at him for being coming off
right.
the field.
Exactly. And so I think that this was kind of all getting off of his chest as well. So I get the
Yeah.
emotion, but, like, that was the first real emotion that we've seen out of, I mean, and the game was essentially over, but you don't really see that type of me stuff from this team. And I'm not saying that Sharp did it. I'm sure it's just like it's in the moment. Like, he's in his home city. The Miami fans are right there. He got overlooked by that school. So I totally get it. But
Oh, yeah.
to bring Sig back and just chew his ass instantly after the
Yes.
play, it was like,
Yes.
that's why they won the national title. That's why he's the best coach in
Yep.
college football. And that's
Mhm.
why, people want to play for a guy like that.
Yep. The standard is the standard no matter if we just won the national championship or we're playing Old Dominion. Like,
Mhm.
or like Carter Smith, I think I had the clip. I think it was Indiana State. Uh he had a false start penalty. And Cignetti is yelling at his Big Ten offensive lineman of the year, All American, about the false start. He has him like pulled in and he's just like in his face, right? And like he's doing that against Indiana State so that he doesn't do that against Miami, which obviously he did. It almost cost us like the game. Like the
Yeah,
game
the
would
game
have
was
been
over at
over
that
if we
point
would
if
have
he
first
doesn't
down
false
there.
start, I
Yeah.
think.
And so like it's that type of stuff. It's when people are like, what's the secret sauce of Kurt Cignetti? It is those examples that where that's at. Okay, so I just have to do this one part because I think it's very important. As Tim probably won't listen to this episode because that's Tim, but I'm just going to put this little nugget in here for Tim. So we started off January talking about Tim having the dream season of Indiana winning a national championship and then the Bears, as Tim thought, was going to the Super Bowl. So I just want you to just quickly talk about how you're living Tim's dream as a Patriots fan, having the Indiana win a national championship and then the Patriots playing in the Super Bowl next week.
Yeah, I mean, I as a Boston sports fan, I've been basically my entire adult life, I've been extremely spoiled as a fan. I mean, I think I saw something where it's like every single year since 2003, a Boston sports team has either been in the conference championship or the finals in one of the four major sports. And so I've been extremely lucky to root for teams, and sometimes it actually, like, even this thing, because I love it for Drake May. I'm a big Drake May fan, obviously, but they have a lot of really good young players on the team, which I'm like, I love that kind of stuff because I love college football. I love watching these guys like blossom as pros. And it's just such a great thing that they're there. And I also want to, like, say that to IU fans is like, this is where, like, to me, I was always had this like nervous energy around IU. Like, can they get there? Can they do this? Can they do, getting nervous during that final drive. I literally thought they were going to lose the game. And what you have to realize is once you've been there, you just know that your guys are going to get it done. I'm not saying that, like, obviously the Patriots had a joke of a schedule this year. They beat a bunch of bad teams. Drake May wasn't great in the playoffs, but they got it done when they needed to. They got there. That's all that really matters. And I just hope that, just transitioning that back to IU, I hope that IU fans kind of learn to, like, talk your crap, man. Like, you guys did it. I was nervous to do it. I would always talk crap about, if I'm as a Red Sox fan or as a Celtics fan. Like, I don't care. My teams have won. My teams have proven that they've won, and now IU fans have done that, and obviously recently. And I just want to tell people, like, I love the Patriots, but this IU thing was just so much out of the blue in the last 2 years, that it's taken over my fandom. Like, it's great if the Patriots win, I'll be ecstatic, but nothing will change. The 2004 Red Sox and then this one are, like, right there. I think IU's above it just because of where IU came from, which was nothing. And I just, it's exciting for me as a Patriots fan to have my team there. But I also think that it's exciting just in general to, like, watch your teams and then know that your team knows what they're doing to get there. And excited for next weekend.
So if Tim's flying back on his budget airline, not having Wi-Fi, and downloaded this episode, I hope, Tim, you take some of that to heart as you wish you could have been in Jamie's shoes. So thank you, Jamie, for letting Tim know about what it's like to have two teams playing
I know,
for
right?
a
I'm very
championship.
lucky.
So it's very nice. All right, before we get into recruiting, because that's the majority of this episode, IU's schedule came out. Did you have any early reactions to Indiana's schedule? You know, we talked about it last episode. It's kind of like a tale of two halves of the schedule. First half, probably a good run up for Josh Hoover. And then it obviously the second half starts very, very difficult, ends maybe with our easiest game against Purdue, but it still has some tough games in there. What was your reaction to Indiana's schedule next year?
Yeah, I mean, I see double digit. It's hard for me not to see double digit wins here. They definitely have some tough games. I mean, at Washington is tough. USC is a big brand at home. I'm a huge Jaden Mayaba fan. I think he's really good. You know, it's very hard to win at Michigan, regardless of what they've looked like, and regardless of, you know, they have athletes up there. And then Ohio State's going to be a massive game at home. I don't want to discount Nebraska, but they're in like some kind of weird
I don't
purgatory. I don't know
what is
what's going.
happening in Lincoln? Like, that
It's really weird,
extension
and
looks
they
terrible at this point. You
really
should have
really
let him
strange.
walk to Penn State.
Totally, yeah, and the other thing I do wanna mention about this schedule that is different than this year is that they only have 1 bye, and the 2 byes this year I thought helped IU immensely, just because of the way the calendar sits. There's just less, you know, there's less weeks between the start of the season and, the end of the season, so there's only 1 bye, and at least IU is not like, Northwestern. Northwestern has a bye in week 2, which is just, I mean, it's almost mean to do, than to have 10 straight games, but, that's one thing I do want to mention that I think is like, you know, everyone's going to be dealing with it. So it's not like you know, just an IU thing, but I do think that it's a big deal that I think people need to remember as we're going through it. Is that, like, you know, these guys are going to be bumped and bruises. I think it's, you know, this year might, the extra bye, I felt like totally regrouped them in multiple, like that Wisconsin game this year. IU was limping past that to get to that final bye. I felt like they had to turn it on kind of in the second half to like pull away. Um, and so that is one thing I want to mention. And you're right though. The lead up though into it, I know that they schedule like this for a reason, and people are like, "Well, look at their schedule; it stinks." And it's like IU has always overscheduled. They finally figured out that that's not, doesn't get you anything. This isn't college basketball. There's no real metrics other than like what
Yeah.
you're like looking at for you know, record, and then strength of record. There's like a, you know, FPI, but like if you play Western Kentucky and you win by 50, or if you play Virginia and win by 3 scores, like there's no difference really in that win. So I think that the lead in to the schedule, playing four straight home games, before going to Piscataway, it's perfect for Josh Hoover to, he's got to get on the same page with these guys. And I think that he will. I'm a big Josh Hoover fan. I was a huge Josh Hoover fan when he committed first. I said that on some message board. I was just like, I can't tell if I'm being irrational with my wish casting on him, because I think he's really, really good. Saw an interview with him at Kroger. He's just super polished. Also, the IU quarterbacks, even going back, coaches have always been super polished, but this kid's like, you know, he's, you know, he knows what he's doing. He's clearly done it in Dallas for TCU for, you know, multiple years now. He's got to cut down on the interceptions, but this lead in with this schedule is a really good way to start. And we saw with Mendoza, he started slowly as well, and he kind of built up, and the confidence he gained. And I think that this schedule is perfect for that. And he's going to need to be, because they, you know, there's a big stretch there of some real tough games in a row. I mean, at Nebraska, home Ohio State, Michigan, at Michigan, Minnesota, USC, and then at Washington. Those are tough games. Like, I don't think Minnesota's good, but like, it's not a cakewalk, like some of these other games might be. So
I do have a little bit of the, maybe a counterintuitive argument to what Signetti has scheduled so far. And I think that Indiana, if they go 10-2 or 12-0 this season, it's hard for me to think that they have not earned enough cachet to go play at least one marquee non-conference game
I agree.
moving forward.
I agree.
Because, like, you know, I think is it 2030? We have Notre Dame on the schedule.
Yeah, it's either
I
29
think
or 30. I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I've been very worried that they're going to drop that game, just because, one, I kind of only reason why I hope they drop the game is just to stick it to Notre Dame, like go join a conference, you
Mhm.
losers. But I for Indiana's sake, I kind of wish we keep it because I would love for us to be a Sunday night game or Monday night game on Labor Day weekend because like everyone wants to see Indiana. And I think that helps recruiting. I think that helps your profile. And what I'm saying is basically Indiana's going to get to a point where they're going to have enough respect that they might get invited to the Chick-fil-A kickoff game that's going to be played in Atlanta or go to Allegiant Stadium and play in Las Vegas against some super non-con team. They're going to get enough respect that if they drop that game, people don't immediately think, well, Indiana, they were total frauds, right? That's where I hope we get to. It's not this season. I mean, you saw my post this morning on February 1st
Yep.
about some Georgia fan blog says Indiana's the most overrated team going into 2026. And I'm just like, here's a wall next to me and it has my head in print on it because it's just like, okay, guys, like what? Maybe we never get to that point. Maybe we never get to that point with the college football establishment, but at least on some level, I think Indiana for the voters will get the benefit of the doubt, at least here in the next couple of years, if they continue to win, not at the national championship pace, but at least at a high clip.
No, I agree, and I think that one of the reasons I wanted to schedule like this is again because like I said, it doesn't really matter, but this team has already
Yeah,
proven in 2 years that like they are a very good team. So like I don't see a problem with them scheduling Kentucky or something like that. I think that would be
I
fun to
know.
watch. Like I would love for them to actually drop kick Kentucky in football all the time, like every year. Or
Bourbon barrel, baby. That trophy was awesome.
I
Bring
know,
that back.
I know, and so like I think that they honestly I think that they will, especially if they win double digit games again this year. I think that we'll start to see some changes maybe because we saw this year. I mean, you can lose 3 games and they'll just DEI you into the playoff if you're an SEC
Yeah.
team. So why wouldn't they do that with an IU team that has the cachet now? People will travel. They want IU in the playoff if they're 9-3. I think that it would be fun to watch IU play some of these teams. And again, you're right. Like the games over Labor Day that everybody is watching. I think that IU would draw that as well because we saw. I mean, what was that? That was the most watched game, championship game since like 2013 or something, or
Yeah.
2014 or something like that, and the second most all time. IU is IU is a brand that people want to watch, especially in football, which is crazy to say.
Well, and honestly, part of the problem with these super conferences is that Indiana, like from a TV watching standpoint, October is your most entertaining and most eyeballs because no matter what, Indiana going to Washington isn't probably going to get huge ratings unless obviously Washington's undefeated at that time.
I agree.
But a a 3 or 4 loss Ohio State or 3 or 4 loss Michigan, no matter what against Indiana is going to draw eyeballs. I think the USC game will always draw something, even though USC doesn't really have a lot of fans locally. They do a lot nationally.
Yeah.
Like I think that there will be some attention to that game, but for the most part, you want to own the one thing that the SEC does really, really well. And yes, ESPN is their propaganda machine, but the reason why ESPN is their propaganda machine is because they paid so much money for that TV rights deal because
Yeah.
of the viewer rate.
Of course. Of
And
course.
and so everyone talks about them. And so that's where Indiana going and playing in Vegas on Labor Day, or playing Notre Dame at some point, like, would be an attraction that you own another weekend where college game day is coming there or something like that. So that's where I hope we see an evolution of Indiana scheduling because you just don't have to do, which I have totally agreed with you, totally agree with what they're doing,
Mhm.
but you don't have to do that at some point.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, big weekend for Indiana as it's been junior day and for Indiana getting some 27 commitments, got an offensive tackle out of the state of Indiana, total prospect at this point. Like he had 0 Power 4 offers. Like you look at his offer list, it's like all MAC schools.
Yeah, it's
But
funny.
big,
Just let me get
yeah,
real quick in
yeah,
here because Matt Weaver, who does a great job for Peegs, he and was is like the reason I've been on the website for like 15 years or whatever. But he said this kid didn't even have a profile until Weaver made one like 2 weeks ago. So he didn't even have a 247 profile until 2 weeks ago. And the national champion took a kid in this class. I mean, so it does actually they clearly Bob Bostad's getting his guys. So
Yeah. His frame is what makes it so ridiculous.
yeah,
Do you
I
have
put
his
out his
name?
huddle
I
video.
don't have it. I don't have his
He's
name even
athletic.
pulled up. What do you have his name?
The offensive lineman, yeah, it's Jeremiah Jones.
Yeah. Jeremiah Jones. Thank you. For those that,
Yeah.
I didn't have it right in front of me, so I'm like looking for
No,
it.
no, no.
So
Yeah.
thank you, Jeremiah Jones.
So
Yeah.
just I put out like a clip of his huddle stuff. I always try to do that on Twitter and just say what I think. And again, I was a little dubious that they are taking it this early, taking like a commit like this who has no stars and only low major, not I guess mid major offers. But this, if you watch the huddle video, you can see why they took him. I mean, he's clearly athletic. He clearly could probably add some weight, and he absolutely destroys people after the whistle. That's one of the things I always look for with college off or high school offensive linemen. And I typically watch like when I use like pretty. I mean, I had no idea that they were in this deep with this kid, but like when I use in deep with some of these kids, I watch their huddle stuff just to like get a sense of like how they play. And one of the things with high school offensive linemen is like, are they driving their opponent, into the dirt after as the play is going on? And this kid finishes all his blocks, but he also can get up to the second level, so that was exciting as well. So it's a Bob Bostad thing. Let's do it. I'm in.
White Boy Rick, guest of the show, he tweeted out like, "Oh, 0 stars. Bob Ostad Signetti signs him. Welcome to Canton, young man."
There you go.
Like
Yeah,
that's kind of what it feels like. And I'll be honest. And we're going to talk about the philosophy around 2027 recruiting that Indiana fans could. Our advice to you. But he's not going to say 0 stars for long, because Indiana is going to start getting a boost in all of these
I agree.
ratings when we identify guys. And other schools are going to come in and try to offer him. And I guarantee we're going to see a quote, if he does stay at Indiana, with Indiana throughout the whole cycle. We're going to see a quote that says, "Indiana believed in me first." I just guarantee that quote is coming.
Well, and they have such a tradition of. I mean, Mario Landino was like one of the lowest. They may miss on some guys, but Mario Landino was a basically almost like a low 3-star, and that kid's playing as a true freshman and then starting, as a true. I think he's a junior this coming year, so he's a sophomore this year. I mean, he's starting on a national championship team. This guy's didn't take a red shirt. Is just a regular recruit. He's just you have to respect what if they see someone, there's a reason that they're seeing that guy and why they want him on the team. And so that's where it's like I have just. While I think I was a little dubious of the offer at first, and so the commitment, it's like thinking about it and talking to some people, like our friend Alec, he was like, "No, man, you got it. This is Bostad being Bostad. Bostad's going to get his guys," and it's like that's true. Like he's just going to get his guys, and most of his guys have worked out. So
yeah, for sure. But I will say, like this goes to something that I've been trying to hammer online is like, yeah, and trust me, Pat Kuntz, Bob Bostad, to like offensive, defensive line guys, trenches guys, they identify a guy. I'm usually believing that it's going to be good.
Yep.
But people are allowed to talk about it. Like, like Indian fans' reaction to a lot of that stuff and is like, don't you dare say like something negative about a player. And it's like, they haven't hit on everybody. Like we can make commentary. Like, how does this affect the 4-star kid out of Noblesville?
Right.
Like, is he going to
make? And that's what I told Alec. I was like, this kid, like getting this kid in the fold, like I'm fine with that. If they get the 2 twins out of Wisconsin that are like high 3-star guys, and if they get the kid from Noblesville that's a 6'7" tackle, like I'm totally fine with that. I just it's these ones that like you have to trust the staff, and like I do trust the staff, so I'm fine with it. But you're right, like we can be critical while also respecting like what the staff has done.
Yeah, for sure. And it is an art form. Like if you listen to, I know Bud Elliott is like the enemy of most Indiana fans, but if you listen to him on Cover 3, the reason why he is so ingrained in recruiting rankings and can't get past it is because that is his career. That's his job. So like he's there. But he talks a lot about in some of their off-season podcasts that it's like this balance and this dance. Like one of the things that coaches have to do is they might offer a kid, but they say like you can't accept this offer yet.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of where it's at. They've lined up like their draft board, prospect board, and they're saying, okay, here's your high end, and then they're looking at it. So that's where it's like, okay, are you taking an offensive lineman? And that's what, to Alex's point, that's why you have to be like, okay, this kid might be good
Right.
because they're worth like risking these other guys for this
Mhm.
kid. So yeah, it is pretty good. Okay, 2027 has picked up recruiting in the steam, picked up steam. And we've seen it with the Monshun Sales has been the apple of Indiana fans' eye, and he loves social media, and he
Oh man, dude,
loves like
that
getting
kid is
people there.
he loves the attention. I don't have a problem with it, but it's just like
Yeah,
sometimes it's like a little bit like he's teasing all these fan bases, and it's kind of funny
all of them.
watching everyone. It's not just IU fans, but it's like a bunch of fan
No,
bases are like all salivating over him because he looks like he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the next couple classes. But it
it's
is very
it's
funny to
February
watch them
1st,
all
and he's tweeting
salivate.
out this morning Devontae Smith's Heisman and with the soon with the
Of
arrow
course, I
thing,
didn't see
right?
it, but
Like,
I'm
yeah.
not shocked by that at all.
Yeah. So, okay, so I just wanna talk a little bit about, like, advice, because 'cause I'm not here to lecture you or talk down to you Indiana fans, but, like, advice about football recruiting, because it is we're hot and heavy in Indiana, like Steve Wiltfong, great follow, you should listen to his stuff.
Absolutely.
He's talking about Indiana's getting a lot of momentum with these guys, like Quentin Burrell, like, uh, McDermott, like, just these guys that in 2027 that are gonna be huge pickups if Indiana gets them, that enough to make, like, the tweet from Henry Fawcett, like saying like Indiana signs, blah, 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 blah. Like that's like how big these guys are.
Yep. I totally agree, and one of the things, they have momentum, but one of the things that I respect about the staff so much is that they're so into what they want. Like they have such an archetype for each position and each player that like the guys that they get, it's just the only thing that's happening is that the athleticism is going up a tick.
Yeah.
So like you watch like Jahide Brown is a wide like a jitterbug wide receiver out of Louisville, and his I think it's his cousin Garyon, maybe it's his half brother or something like that. Garyon Hobbs is like a safety. Um, they're both like 4 stars by some of the services, high 3 stars by 247. But if you watch those guys, like they love IU already. Like they're they're tweeting about
Yeah.
IU, like they are so elated to be part of the class, and like that's what I also find to be what a basketball recruit Prince Alexander Moody does this as well. Like he's just all in on IU, and it's fun to
Yeah.
watch
We saw
guys like that, especially guys that are
LeVar
like not
Keys. Yeah.
yeah, but there's especially guys that are not like you know high, that are not the top of the top. Like these, Jahide Brown is a legitimate, like really good player and will probably
Legit. Yeah.
not use a red shirt type guy because he's a little jitterbug. But it's so much fun that these guys also love IU and that the floor is being raised. And so I'm excited for this upcoming class. Also excited for the class that they're bringing in. I don't know where you want to go there, but like the way that they attack the portal in for this
Yeah.
year is also unbelievably exciting.
Before we go there, Jahide Brown's a great example of this. So he visited Nebraska
Mhm.
like last week or whatever. And
Yeah, I
like I
saw
had
fans were
someone,
like freaking out.
yeah, like a fake guy who is a great follow for us and someone who listens to every show. He like said, "Hey, I'm pointing this out. Like this is like, should we be concerned?" This is my advice to you, Indiana fans. Recruiting in football, I don't expect any of them to come. I'm gonna be honest. Like it is like Purcell, like that. He went to the game. His family's from my Indiana, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I would be really great if he comes. And like Jameson Purcell, like he's a 4-star kid. Like until he signs in December, it is a roller coaster in football. And so I'm not saying
Completely
don't
fluid.
celebrate these guys and like recruiting. What I think Indiana fans should always take away from high school recruiting is just momentum. Like if you feel momentum coming and feeling it with the high school kids and stuff like that, it means you're building your program's foundation. And regardless if individual player X signs with your team, it probably means if he decommits and goes somewhere else, if you have enough momentum, you're going to replace him with a guy that the coaching staff feels excited about. And so
Yeah,
I just
I
like
think
want
that
to be
Indiana
tepid
fans have
about
been
like,
so ingrained with basketball, where there's
yes,
just so few kids that actually enroll in the program every year, like at most 4 or 5 usually, and even now, like
yeah,
with transfers, I mean, it's like 3 and you at most out of high school. And so I think it's a different, there's so many kids out there that it's so different. And people just aren't, if you haven't followed it, I understand that. If you haven't followed football recruiting, this happens all the time. These guys are getting asked to come. I wasn't a player. Didn't he get like 10 grand to go to South Carolina to like a practice or something like that, like, or a game? Like they paid the kid to go down there. Like they want these kids on campus, and why not? If you're getting a free ride to go see Nebraska, I've actually never been to Nebraska, but I've heard Lincoln is pretty
awesome.
cool.
I've been there. So
like why not, man? And I don't begrudge them either. If they want to do that, that's fine. Now if they're flirting behind the scenes with them more than just kind of going and checking it out, that's a little bit different, I guess. But I think that if a guy's doing that, this staff specifically would be like, all right, buddy, we'll see you later, man. We're done. We're not doing this.
So. Well, the other thing is it goes both ways. Like Jalen Brewster, who was the 5-star kid that came out, he's like one of our highest rated recruits to ever come visit a football game for an official visit, and he commits to Texas Tech. I think Pat Kuntz just had a picture with him, like online.
He's probably going to be visiting. Yeah, this is what they do. They have to. You never in college football recruiting. You're always out there. You're always on the trail. You're always yapping with these guys on social media. It's just like the name of the game. And I think that we just have to, as fans, have to accept that like those are things that are going to happen. And I don't think it's the end of the world if Jahide Brown goes and checks out Nebraska. I saw there was some consternation on some of the boards that like, why is he doing that? It's like it's what they do, man. It's just how it works.
Well, and also, like, in this day and age, Jalen Brewster goes to Texas Tech for a year. It doesn't work out, and he transfers, and Pat Kuntz has a relationship with him. Like, you got
never want to sour those relationships, and you always want to be building them. Because
Josh Hoover is a great example of this.
Exactly. I mean, that's a perfect example of how the boomerang effect coming back to IU. I mean, he talked in the interview he did. He talked about like he's very happy to be here, obviously saying all the right stuff, but it's like that kid visited 4 years ago and loved IU enough when they sucked to commit. So like those weren't the juggernaut teams that IU has now. Like he committed to IU because he liked the program, he liked Tom Allen, he liked that direction of the program. Obviously he decommitted when Nick Sheridan left. I'm pretty sure he was the like main recruiter guy when they got rid of Nick Sheridan. And I get that. That's just how it works. But you don't sour any relationship. He obviously liked IU enough to commit the first time. So him coming back around and essentially, he took a visit, but he knows what IU's about. He's been there before, and it's exciting that they keep these relationships even through coaching staffs. And I think that's when IU, like even if IU has to replace coaches, like they have their own relationships with other guys that they like as well. Like it's just the business of college football recruiting specifically. It's just different than college basketball where there's such a finite amount of actual high major talent where you can find all these guys. There's so many examples of guys like Mario Landino who just didn't get the buzz and then had the relationship, and IU gave him an offer, a committable offer, and now he's proving them right.
Okay, so let's quickly touch on the transfer class. Tim and I did have a segment on the transfer class, and Jamie and I were talking about. I want to talk about the high school kids coming in 2026 because I feel like it's the least talked about Indiana football class, which is like shocking because, Indiana football didn't have a ton of coverage before. But from a calendar standpoint, we went Indiana football signing day in December, and then like we were still buzzing from the Heisman, and then we went right into the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, it was like game prep.
Transfer. Yeah, it was crazy how quickly we were like, hey, we had a bunch of guys signed today. Okay, we'll talk about this later, and we'll come back. So I brought Jamie on. I was like, Jamie, we got to talk about this. But I do want, like, it's hard not to talk about the high school class without mentioning the transfer class because we're building a roster for next year. So what were your quick takeaways? Tell me, highlight a couple players that you like, and then like overall, what do you think is the strength of this class? And then what would you have liked to see? We can still see it. There still can be guys signed, but what would you have liked to see?
Yeah, I want to do what I would like to see. I know there's still time. It's very weird with the way the calendars. I mean, school has started. Yeah. It's multiple weeks in, which I don't know how that would work. Are they going to sit out spring practice? Because IU right now, I have them at 82 scholarships. They can have 85. But so I don't know if they're going to because there's no spring portal, if they're going to wait to bring these guys in just because classes have already started, or do they sneak them in and then just get a second 8 week? I don't really know how that's going to work. So I know that I have heard that they are still, or read that they are still, looking at other players. There's thousands of players in the portal still. So like there's still talent out there. So let me hit this first. I think that experienced tight end, I think is a need. Brock Schott, they bring him in from Miami. He's a Fort Wayne kid, if I remember correctly, originally, and he committed to Miami of Florida. And he's super athletic, but he's also a redshirt freshman and played like 4 snaps or 10 snaps or something all year. And then they have, so that is a need. I think that depth on the offensive line, I think, is a need still, just because when Evan Lawrence left, I mean, I think that they have 7 guys that are probably pretty excited about it. That if you include if you include Bruner in that, Joe Bruner, they're basically their highest graded ranked signee in the transfer class. But I also think that like they need to add like
we have no tackles.
Inexperienced swing guy like Zen McCalskey, like that type of guy. It doesn't need to be a starter level, because they have Carter Smith, they have Drew Evans, they have Bray Lynch. I think is going to be the center. Johnny seems to like he's running with the right tackle spot, and then Bruner. And I really like Baylor Wilkin, who's going to be a redshirt freshman. He actually played a little bit. And Austin Liebfried, they like. I know that. And then they have Matt Merrick and Evan Parker, who didn't really play that much this year. But right now they need like another swing tackle. I think that just a guy that can come in and even be that extra offensive lineman if needed or whatever. That would be one of the things that I would highlight. And then, so going in, like looking at the class, one of the guys people, they were all excited because he was a 5-star high 4-star, 5-star, AJ Harris. He was not good last year. He was really bad at Penn State. He actually had his best game against IU by PFF, but 2 years ago he was really good. So whatever was happening with that Jim Knowles defense, I think it was like he just isn't good in press coverage, and maybe that's kind of what was getting him down. Thought that was a pretty good ad, especially because it's like a bounce back, like a kid that has the athleticism. So I do like that one. I think he's going to be battling it out with Rylan Gandy. But I loved it. I'm sure you have some thoughts on this, but I absolutely love the 2 K-State kids. I think those guys are going to be legit Big Ten, all Big Ten level players, at least, if not this year for a Cheaty guy, because he's only a redshirt junior. But the Toby kid, that kid is, if you watch he's legit.
Yeah. I think the edge players out of K-State, like one thing that a lot of people need to realize about the Plains Midwest recruiting and K-State guys. K-State's made their money off of signing these 3 to 4-star kids out of Kansas. And unlike signing a 4-star kid out of Texas, I thought this, I've heard this from recruiting analysts before, is like a 4-star kid out of Alabama, Florida, or Texas are probably at their ceiling, because Texas football is like, there's literally a class period in their high schools called football that they take, and they play all year round. Kansas kids, like this kid out of Wichita, like they have a football season, then they're not allowed to like lift weights or anything in the spring season. Like that's it. And then summer comes around. There's so much to be built on top of those frames and like that skill set. And K-State's made their money with it. And it seems like K-State kind of developed these guys, then Chris Kleiman leaves, and then like Indiana's taking them. And that's encouraging to me, especially after some of their defensive alignment or that they've sent to the league, that they could be that level.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm a huge fan of those guys. Obviously, you have to mention Josh Hoover, the quarterback transfer. Again, like I said earlier, I'm super big fan of his. I think he needs to cut down on mistakes. I'm not going to just be totally rosy here, because he's not really a runner. He threw a lot of interceptions that I think he would like to have back, but I also think that he had to make basically plays out of nothing if you watched some of those TCU games. So I kind of get it, but Mendoza only threw like 5 picks at Cal, and Hoover nearly tripled that last year. So like it's a thing that has to be worked on, but he's the next guy. And I think if you told me he was a top 5 Heisman guy next year, I would not be shocked. Nick Marsh, obviously, that was one of my, I love Nick Marsh. I loved him since he balled out against IU, like 2 years ago as a true freshman. 2 years ago as a true freshman.
True freshman.
And then this year, he was really good as well. And one of the things that I think is goes on talked about really with him is that I think he was, I got to look it up again. I think he was 3rd or 4th, right? Him and Omar Cooper for missed tackles forced. I mean, they are very, very hard to get on the ground. And it's such a big thing with wide receivers, especially now, is they have to be able to make guys miss after that's how you win games. As you watch with Omar Cooper all year, he turns 3 yards into 9, and that's a first down. And that's just those type of things that's what Nick Marsh does outside of him just being awesome, being able to jump, make contested catches. And to pair him with Becker and Tyler Morris coming back, I just think you have 3 guys plus the other guys that are coming back. And but it's such a deep room that with at the top is just like they could have. They could legitimately have those 3 guys could all be NFL guys after this year, and that's a really good problem to have. Like trying to figure out where you're throwing the ball. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love this transfer class, and there are some holes. Like you didn't mention linebacker. That's one that who's our third linebacker on this roster right now?
yeah. So I'm the way I see it as like they're going to build a defense around who they have. Clearly,
Mhm.
in my opinion, I think they really like PJ Nelson. He'll be a redshirt freshman next year. He was a linebacker. I think he's from like Cincinnati area. And then my favorite player in the entire class for this coming year is Jaden Williams. He's just an absolute hitting machine. He's like 6'2", 205, sideline to sideline. I think he's going to be a multi-year starter at IU, obviously if he stays. So I think they do have some backups there that are not like they're young but and unproven. But I also think that what like just looking at the roster, like Farrell is back. Garrett Reese didn't take a red shirt this year, so he played a lot on special teams. He'll be a sophomore. They got Preston Zachman, a safety who's like a 7th-year guy from Wisconsin, who's like 6'1", 212 pounds. Jaquan Sanks he's like the prototypical rover, smaller guy, 5'10", but like stout and can play against the run. So you have Sanks, Baldwin, Zachman, and Farrell, and then you add in Garrett Reese there I just think that it gives them, they might not be as multiple as being able to just play 3 linebackers all the time, but they'll have the safety depth, in my opinion, to have those guys like be able to come up and play against the run, just like they did this year. If they don't add someone, I think it would be a good place to add if they need to. I just think that I'm such a big fan of the younger linebackers that I think that with Hardy, obviously there's injuries that happen, but with Hardy and Jones, you got 2 of the best in the Big Ten, and they're both going to be, raring to go next year.
I mean, I do think that I think we will see some true freshman minutes. I agree
Yeah.
with you, and that's a good segue into our 2026 class. Overall, this class is what probably Indiana is moving forward with high school recruiting. Recruit big boys on the defensive and offensive line, and get skill players where you feel like you can develop skill players. But I honestly think, quarterback and running back and receivers will always be supplemented by transfer portal. And
Totally agree.
so I'm not I would love these guys to develop, but I'm not looking at this class going, that was a priority for Indiana. Where I think the priority is in the offensive and defensive line. So talk Indiana fans through this 2026 class and
Sure.
it's
And
hard to
I think
project out.
I think the D line is like, to me, is I mean, Kuntz and Buda Williams just absolutely killed it. So the top ranked recruit according to 247 is a kid from Florida named Cavante Huggin. 6'2", 235, probably needs a year to develop, but super athletic edge guy who's like just violent hands, I guess. Yeah, I'm not really a scout, but like if you watch him, you can't get your hands on him. He just runs around you. But he's got to add weight, so that might take a year. Another guy that I'm a big fan of, that I think is going to be, we talk about they like that like stout nose tackle type, like Tyreek Tucker, and they Cameron McCaney, he was at IMG. He's originally from Indiana. 6'1", 315 defensive tackle. So Tyreek Tucker, it didn't take him that many years to develop, but like this is the how it works as they move forward. Like they're going to get these guys that are actually, not that Tyreek Tucker's a bad athlete or something like that, because he's one of my favorite players on the team. But if you're adding a player that is like Cameron McCaney, who's just super quick, gets under you, moves you back. I mean, that's the kind of guys that they would love to get, but they were getting like a lower graded kid. This is a kid that played at IMG and the best, basically some of the best teams, and not only held his own, but dominated up front from a defensive tackle position. I do want to say like that I really like what they did on they got DeMonte Timms late. I think he's going to be a player out of Florida that is like almost 6'1", about 200 pounds, but he's a guy that I really like. And then one of the sleepers, I'm going to write about this eventually here, but one of the better huddle videos that I watched is a kid named Rodney White. He's another one of those 6'2", 280 pounder, like smaller defensive lineman, but seems like a pure nose tackle type. And if you watch his huddle video, again, it's hard because sometimes you don't know what the competition is. So you always want to take it with a grain of salt. And also it's highlights. Like in basketball, they never miss a shot in highlights. So, but yeah, so Rodney White, another kid that I think is going to take a couple years to develop, but if he does what I watched on his huddle video seems to be something like that, exactly like Cameron McCaney, just not really as highly touted because he didn't go to IMG. So those are some guys that I really like, especially on the D line, and that I think that could develop into like. I don't necessarily think it's going to be this year, but I do think in the coming years it's going to. And that's the thing. I think you alluded to this also. It's like you have to. There's only a finite amount of super athletic big dudes out there, so you have to you have to cultivate those guys.
Yeah.
As we're seeing, like you can't just have all transfers come in. You have to have your own guys, specifically those, because it's not A, they're expensive, and B, you need them to be in your system, learning your system with your strength and conditioning staff. You need them to be in there. Those are the guys that like are the foundation of the team. You can always bring in a wide receiver because they can, you're doing wide receiver stuff. But if you want to build a program, you need to build it on the offensive defensive line. And specifically, in my opinion, in the Big Ten, yes, offensive linemen are terrific to be cultivating, but the defensive line is like, you have to have the athletes to stop the guys in the Big Ten, because as we're seemingly going back to a lot more teams are running the ball a lot more. It's not just air raid offenses. So really excited about the D-line and what they were able to do there. Very happy with, Kuntz and Buda Williams are absolutely destroying the recruiting trail. So, and with the guys they're getting on campus, which we could talk about, but the guys they're getting on campus soon, like this junior day weekend, I mean, they have like 4-star running backs on campus. Like, that's what this is doing. So super excited about this upcoming class. And I think that there could be, like you said, there could be a couple of these guys that actually do, the young guys that actually do play early. And we saw that this year with Byron Baldwin. Obviously he was highly ranked, but they have a bunch of guys that are highly ranked now.
Well, Brian Haynes said it after the season when he was just like, don't worry, we'll get bigger. Like when there's all this talks about the defensive line size and like the Tyree Tucker picture, and Tyree Tucker is undersized, like for a traditional defensive lineman. That does not mean he's any less of a player. Miami fans found that out real quick, is that he wasn't any less of a player. But like, you watch and you look at the profile and the physical build of some of these guys they're signing, both, Joe Yelly and from Tulsa, the defensive lineman from that transferred in, and then you've got these guys in this recruiting class. Yeah, they're bigger. The frame itself is just bigger.
Yeah,
and it is just a size difference that I'm going to step back here for a second. Indiana fans, we've loved the misfit narrative. We've loved the guys coming together, and Coach Sig can identify better than anyone. It's all true. Sig is also the guy that signed Julio Jones for Alabama under Saban. Like, he knows 5-star talent. And I'm not going to say that he is turning down this 5-star size and talent, the measurables, for the Tyree Tuckers of the world. I can't believe that. And I think we're starting to see, like, when Indiana has access to these behemoths, they're going to take them. like it's not like they're going to say, no, please, Jalen Brewster, sorry, you're too highly ranked. You measure too high. Your NFL profile out is like first round, and we can't have that. We have to take the non-drafted guy so that then we make a first rounder for the narrative. They're going to take the big guys.
And I think that one of the things that I totally agree with their sentiment about the recruiting trail is, like, we're seeing this play out again. Saw it play out this year, but last year as well. Is that, like, what's the point of paying a dude a ton of money to sit? Like, there's just no reason to. So, like, if Jalen Brewster comes to IU or if Munchin Sales comes to IU, they're going to be paying them market rate. but they're going to play them. They're not here to sit. And that's one of the things that, for me, that's why I like that IU takes they take they're right now they're up in some 4 stars and all that stuff. But like there is still developmental guys that like they think have the frame and the size that they want. And, they're going to see if it works out. But I think that we're not going to see IU go, hey, we're the number one recruiting class. We have 4 or 5 stars. It's just, they're not going to do that, because I think that they value, obviously, SIG values production over potential, but also, like, if he doesn't think you're going to play right away, he's not going to pay you. He's just not going to do that. And I think that fans need to understand that, like, that's how they're going to roll. And I agree with that. I think it's the right decision to not just overpay for some of these kids just to sit on your bench. I mean, look, Texas is paying millions of dollars. These kids don't even play. Like, why would you do? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Just as a roster construction freak.
Well, I mean, you're a baseball guy. The money ball thing is going to be a real thing in college football. Like, totally, it's going to be the guys. And right now, the money ball thing is like, don't spend money on quarterbacks. Like,
right.
I hate Miami, but I respect Mario Cristobal's ability to build a program. And he for 4 or 5 years have just been investing in defensive and offensive linemen out of the portal or out of the high school ranks. And that's where Desmond Bain comes from.
Yep.
He's going and signing skill guys around those guys. And like that is something that teams need to take note of. And we're seeing this by the heft and the size of these interior guys. Like, Indiana's trying to do that too, because you were talking about this, like, you build a foundation through those guys and then you supplement these other guys on top of them. And this class is doing a good job of that. All right, offensive side of the ball, 2026. Anyone that stands out, like LeVar Keys, obviously, we got him from Penn State's breakup of James Franklin class. Is there a guy that you're like, man, that guy's electric and we should pay attention and could be a year one impact player?
Yeah, so it's hard because I think it's public, but like Parker Elmore keeps shooting up the recruiting rankings, and if you watch him, like, you can understand why he's a tight end from Columbus, Indiana, but he had to sit out because he like transferred to a different school and then he hurt his knee. So if he actually is healthy and can actually get on campus and participate in spring, that's a guy that I could see maybe playing. They don't really play tight end. So like, I guess to me it would be one of the things that I really like about how this class how they did this class is like LeVar Keys is not coming to play spring ball. I think that playing spring ball is a huge deal for incoming high school kids. So that's one of the reasons I don't know if LeVar Keys, he might push his way into playing, but that's a guy that I don't really see actually playing very much. But their offensive side, I think, it's not as good as their defensive side. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I do think that like a guy like Keys is one of the guys that you would think would play early if he does. Cortez Rupert is a super athletic. I posted a video of him making an obscene one-handed catch. He's from East St. Louis, Illinois, right? Like next to St. Louis, obviously. And he's a kid that, again, really fast, quick twitch type athlete, but is 6'1", so can kind of play on the outside. Definitely has to add a bunch of weight, but that's another kid that like that's an athlete coming in that while he's not ranked super high, that's a kid that I could see getting some time early, especially if he. The other thing is these guys have to play special teams. That's one of the things that like it gets you on the field early. And Sig has talked about this. Like if you don't play special teams, you're not playing at IU, or if you're not willing to play it. So one of the things that gets you on the field, like people don't even know who Garrett Reese is, but he didn't even use a redshirt, or he burned his redshirt this year because he was a key contributor on special teams, just like Charlie Becker was. We knew he was an okay player, but we didn't know he was this before, but he was killing it on special teams, and that's how you get noticed. So I do think that if the offensive guys are actually going to make an impact, it'll be later in the season as the grind of the season continues to go on, or if there's injuries, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Going forward, SIG, no self-imposed limitations, right? Does Indiana someday play in the top 10 recruiting rankings?
See, that's where I like I said, I have, unless they think that a guy's going to play, I don't think they're going to pay him. So like they clearly like Jalen Brewster. They have a connection. I believe his dad played with Pat Kuntz or something like that. But if they're going to bring a guy, a 5-star like that into the fold, he's going to play right away, and they're going to pay him to play right away. But I just don't think that they're going to stack talent like some of these other schools do anymore. I don't see that happening. So I don't know if they'll be, I could see them being 15, maybe. I'm not top 5, top 10. I don't know because some of these other schools will just spend frivolously at the high school ranks to say, hey, we had a top 10 recruiting class. I just don't see IU doing that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how much demand and market value for Indiana like it goes, and also like the purchasing power of Indiana at some point. Like we're going to continue to grow as a program. This is how you become a blue blood level spender and investor, is by winning and sacking championships. And we do have a large alumni fan base. I know that gets talked about so much, but we also have a lot of rich people in here and they like what's happening and going, yeah, we'll keep investing that we can go be a Michigan, a Georgia, an Alabama, even though Alabama's poor. We can go be those people and stack talent and pay those first years. So like we all agree, if Signetti can do it because he thinks it's the best option, he'll do it.
Yeah.
But it is one of those that we do love to watch the signs, and I think the defensive line and offensive line are just always going to be a level of investment we haven't seen. I think the moral of the story to me is, who we haven't really talked about, a position group of 5 stars on campus? Quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing we can all agree, that Sig is not going to invest a lot of money in a high school quarterback or
I
Julian
agree.
Lewis.
And I mean, we saw, I was sad to see Alberto Mendoza leave.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen enough from him to, I wanted them to bring in a Josh Hoover type quarterback because I had not seen enough from him to say, hey, this guy should be starting on a championship caliber Big Ten team yet. But they do.
He
It
could
is
come
true.
back.
But they do need to. They do need to continue. Like you can't just continue to just bring in transfers and you just never play these guys behind them. But I know that they clearly like Jamison Purcell, who's the 27 quarterback.
Yeah.
And then they like Jacob Bell, a kid from
They do.
Chicago area, who's a kind of bigger quarterback type, good arm. And they have Tyler Cherry still on the roster. So these guys,
Do they?
Right. So they still need to build that pipeline. But it sucks that a guy like Mendoza would, or Alberto, would leave. But it's also like, I kind of get it, man. He needs to like kind of, if he wants to come back, then he can come back. But IU needs to continue to build this momentum, and you're not going to do that if you just go 7-5 or 8-4 or something like that, because you're going through growing pains with a redshirt sophomore quarterback that you just gave the reins to. Like I like the decision to go out and get Josh Hoover.
Okay, so as we wrap up, please in the comments, you guys were great on Spotify and YouTube, like putting in your comments about this episode and telling us about the scheduling and all that fun stuff. Please let us know high school. Who are you excited about in the 2026 high school class? Who are you excited about in the 2026 transfer class? And then maybe who do you want out of the 2027? Who's the apple of your eye? Please comment. Let us know. We try to respond to all comments. Jamie, we did have a couple of funny comments this week, and one was someone correcting how we say Rutger, and I like
that's
I just
been a
wanted
joke
to address
for like
it.
a decade. From
I
like,
know,
was
but
that
like
Crimson
but
Quarry
people,
or
yeah,
whatever?
it was Crimson Quarry. Kyle Robbins, I think, was like the first one to do it. Craig comments about correcting us, like say it with me. It's Rutgers, not Rucker. That is just like, people just don't live on Twitter as much as like you and I do, right?
I
And
know
so like that joke is
it's
there.
crazy. I feel like I get yelled at by my wife all the time. She's like, "You're on your phone all the time." It's like, yeah,
Oh,
because
my wife does the
it's fun
same.
stuff
It's so funny.
happening on there.
Yeah, exactly. I was driving. Alex sent me something that he was like, "Hey, put this out," and I was like, I saw it, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm at the gas station, like
Yeah.
pulling up a clip,
Yeah.
from the thing, like to get it out there." And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I just gotta get this out. Let me get this out, then
Yeah.
I'll put my phone away."
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you on that one. But yes, Craig, it is a joke. It probably drives you crazy because you think, like, people probably think we're just idiots and don't know it's actually with an S. But until they are out of debt and the Big Ten doesn't, like, the S is our leverage as the Big Ten
There you go.
against the debt that they have against us. Like, they don't get it back until they finally pay it off. And those of you who don't know, it came from when they only had one rushing yard in a game against Indiana in their first couple seasons. I think I can't remember the
I
year.
think it's something
First
like
couple
that.
of seasons. Yeah, and so they lost their S, and that's why it's always been Rucker, and it's also very funny. And I legitimately correct people. Like, I've corrected the dean of the business school one time, in there, like, they said that we were talking about schools, and they said it. I was like, it's Rucker. Like, I will do that, and people are like, no, it's not, and then I have to explain why. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
For the non-terminally online.
yeah, I know, right? That just explain the context of that. The last thing I want to say is fan reactions to our scheduling episode. And this you got to tell me if this is a hot take. I haven't ran it by you in this barometer, but we had someone that was like, delete your podcast. Like the common things that we get every once in a while, but delete your podcast. This team is going to go undefeated. This is 12-0, right? Looking at the Indiana's 2026 schedule. And this is my hot take. And you can disagree with it. Sound off in the comments if you disagree. To say that Indiana, no doubt, is going 12-0 next year, and like we should never even question Coach Sig and this team, is disrespectful to the 2025 team. Because it is so hard to go undefeated. We had a high-profile coach at the University of Texas stand up at a press conference at the end of last season and say, no team will ever go 16-0, Steve Sarkisian said. Indiana did it the next season. It is almost impossible to go 16-0. I applaud that if you have that confidence and all that stuff, but we're a podcast. A podcast is here to discuss things. And I read that and I'm like, if you're just so blind confident, you don't realize how special the 2025 group was and that season was. And so I just wanted to get that off my chest. Tell me if it's a hot take or not. But I just was like, I saw that. And of course they said like delete your podcast. So I probably was hostile as soon as I read it. But I'm also like, no, I think you actually are being a bad fan by saying like blindly 12-0. Not that they can go 12-0. I think I said that in the last episode. They can win a national championship next year. I would love it. I just made a joke earlier this episode about the win streak going in 3 seasons. But like to be like serious football analytical, it's almost impossible to go undefeated, and that's why the 2025 team will always be so special.
Can I respond to that? Because
Yeah.
like I totally agree with you. I picked them last year to be 9-3, and I thought they would win. Like I thought this was going to be a gradual. I picked them to be 9-3, and I thought they would win a bowl to get to 10 wins, and that would be like a big deal. Like they would get the bowl schneid would be off. It is so hard to win football games, man. It is so hard. I mean, IU essentially gave the game away against Penn State earlier this year and got bailed out by an obscene drive by Mendoza and crew, with capped off by that catch. That's a game that they win 0% of the time, basically. Like you have to have all these things go right to go perfect. And we saw that like IU went 16-0. I think there was no other teams that had one loss. I mean, IU had 2 less losses than every other team in college football. It's very, very hard no matter how good you are. And we saw that with Ohio State. I mean, they were dominating everybody, especially on defense. Their metrics were insane. They were, just choking people out of games, and it just going slowly and methodically down the field. And even they got punched in the mouth by one mistake against Miami that if they had just not thrown that pick 6 in that game against Miami probably doesn't make the title game, because Ohio State, the rest of that game, they were down 14-0. They kind of kept chipping away. And, people were like, well, they won by 10. Well, OSU let them score a touchdown, if you recall, in that game, to try to get the ball back to and then get scoring, do an onside kick type thing. So it is so hard to win games that just assuming you're going to go 12-0, even though I think that they have a good chance, they could probably do it. I mean, they have Ohio State at home. Michigan is kind of in a swoon. USC is at home. Nebraska isn't very good. There's a lot of things that I see where it's like, okay, I can see 12-0 happening, but to predict that or to think that that's the case, agree that it takes away from what happened last year with this team. With this vintage of IU, but they also, like, that team had so many close calls and insane plays to get them to that 16-0 that is almost unreplicable or replicatable going year to year, I think. So, we'll see what happens. I'm not putting self-imposed limitations. But I'm also not going to say definitively that this is a team that's going to go 12-0. You just
For
cannot do
sure.
that.
I mean, I think the Kirkwood Dunn account from me tweeted 12-0 like as soon as the schedule goes out, because like it's fun to say. It's a fan. I'm just talking about the ones that are seriously. And then there is another segment of the fan base is like, it's 1-0. It's one game at a
I know.
time. We need to take. And I'm like, guys, like this is what we do. Like, just like we talk about sports, so
Yeah.
we like talk about individual games. So it is a fun space to see both ends of the spectrum there. You know what also has been fun, Jamie? Having you on the podcast. I
Appreciate it,
really
man.
appreciate it. Yeah. Follow him at Jordan Jamie,
Correct. On Twitter.
JordanJamie,
Yes,
Jordan
sir.
Jamie, because Jamie can be spelled different ways.
Different
So
ways.
I always put it at the beginning, but I don't put it here at the end. So just do that. He is on Hoosier Huddle. Go subscribe to there. Read his IU Reactionary. He does talk about basketball. I didn't allow him today to talk about basketball because I just don't want to feed his Dorn addiction. So we just
I'm a Dorn addict, baby.
Yeah, just don't want to feed that. So we just talked about football today. You can follow me at ST McGee, at TB Hoosiers. Tim will be back midweek this week, and we'll see his sunburn because he doesn't get tan to talk to him about that. But follow at Kirkwood and Dunn on all accounts. We will still have videos. We'll still have clips. We'll still remember this Indiana 2025-2026 season because it was just absolutely special. But today we talked a lot about the future of Indiana football, and the future is bright. Go Hoosiers.